Most dangerous world extinction threats in comics. Dark Knight's death metal. What happens when the heroes lose the ultimate cosmic battle and the universe gets a heavy metal makeover? You get Dark Knight's death metal, a bizarre punk rock sequel to Dark Knight's metal, where the DC universe is revealed to be a conquered, hellish wasteland. The story doesn't start with a crisis, it starts with the depressing aftermath. Perpetua, the creator of the multiverse, has teamed up with the fan-favorite villain, the Batman Who Laughs, to transform all distinct universes into a single cohesive realm of suffering. Wonder Woman is surprisingly serving as the Warden of Hell, Superman is literally trapped in a solar torture device, and Batman is leading a guerrilla movement with a Black Lantern ring, commanding an army of the dead. It's a truly terrible family reunion. The stakes quickly get expanded beyond the multiverse and into the Omniverse, a collection of multiverses, as the heroes realize Perpetua was aiming for total control of everything. To fight back, the heroes went on a desperate, complex mission to the dark multiverse, seeking the legendary Crisis energy to power up for a final confrontation. What I think makes it even worse is that the Batman Who Laughs had his own plan, moving his brain into a godlike body to become the Darkest Night, being powerful enough to kill Perpetua and take her spot as the top-tier menace. The climax wasn't just a battle, but a cosmic war that pulled in every hero and villain from DC's entire history. The Darkest Night began collapsing the timeline, which is called Hypertime, into a final collection of 52 universes of horror. But Wonder Woman found the solution. She dipped her lasso of truth into the literal fires of the World Forge. This granted her the power to push the Darkest Night through time to the heat death of the universe, where he simply ran out of energy and sputtered out. The event ended not with a traditional reboot, but an unboot, restoring continuity so that everything that ever happened, making the Omniverse infinite and welcoming to all those confusing retcons of the past. So now, the number of continuities is infinity plus 1. Chaos War. If you need an event with an absolutely staggering number of casualties that often gets forgotten in the pantheon of cosmic threats, allow me to introduce you to Chaos War. The villain here is Amatsu Makaboshi, the Japanese god of evil who graduates into the all-consuming Chaos King. His goal is refreshingly straightforward. He doesn't want to rule, he simply wants to erase everything and return existence to the perfect primordial void that existed before creation. Honestly, he could just travel back in time, but okay. In the opening pages, Makaboshi instantly murders the dream god Nightmare, which causes almost all sentient beings on Earth to fall into a coma-like sleep. The reason why I think this is truly horrifying is because only a handful of the most powerful heroes, mainly Hercules and Thor, remain awake to defend the whole planet from an enemy that eats reality. The horror escalates rapidly as Makaboshi tears through the underworlds of various pantheons, consuming the realms of Hades, Hela, and even Satan himself. The dead literally flee back to the land of the living, which is never a great sign. A supercharged Hercules leads a desperate god squad, but they soon realize they are already too late. Amadeus Cho, the genius sidekick, calculates that the Chaos King had already consumed a staggering 98.76% of the entire multiverse. How did he calculate that exactly? I don't know, but Asians are just good at math. The stars in the sky are actively disappearing because the galaxies they belong to had simply vanished. What makes it even worse is that the Chaos King was essentially omnipotent, having enslaved the alien gods of the Skrulls and Shi'ar to his will. The few surviving gods realize that brute force won't work, so the resolution relies on a trick. As Mikaboshi prepares to swallow the last remaining reality, which is Earth conveniently, Amadeus Cho and Galactus open a portal to a sealed-off empty pocket dimension. They successfully shoved the Chaos King into it, where he floats in the infinite nothingness of his own perceived victory forever. Hercules then uses his vast power to recreate the 98% of the multiverse that was lost, restoring the universe to its former glory at the cost of his godhood. So, in the end, a god who wants everything to be an empty void got exactly what he wanted. A personal, infinite, empty void to chill in for eternity. Congrats on achieving your goals, I guess. Crisis on Infinite Earths. If you're looking for the original Everything Must Go sale of comic book continuity, look no further than this 1985 DC behemoth. The stakes were instantly and devastatingly when the Anti-Monitor, a grumpy cosmic entity from the antimatter universe, decided that positive matter was just too much and unleashed a relentless silent wave of white antimatter to wipe out the entire multiverse. This wasn't a villain with a hostage demand, this was a villain with a cosmological eviction notice. Within the first few issues, we saw our favorite alternate Earths, including the villainous Earth 3, simply fade to white nothingness. On top of that, the event quickly got a kill count that was impossible to ignore, since, all of the multiverse is dying. Supergirl bravely sacrificed herself to destroy the Anti-Monitor's armor in what I think is a genuinely heartbreaking moment. But what makes it even worse is that the Flash, Barry Allen, disintegrated into the Speed Force by running so fast to destroy the villain's antimatter cannon. Talk about going out with a bang. To save any remnants of reality, the benevolent counterpart, the Monitor, gathered the few surviving heroes to protect 5 vibrational tuning forks, which was apparently the only thing preventing total collapse. By the time the dust settled, only 5 Earths remained, forcing a final desperate battle at the dawn of time itself. The heroes followed the Anti-Monitor to the beginning of creation, where the Spectre, a cosmic heavy hitter, had to physically hold back the collapse of time while the rest of the crew fought off an infinite army of shadow demons. So, how did it end? The remaining realities forcibly merged into one single new Earth, a streamlined, easier-to-read version of DC history. The Anti-Monitor was finally thrown into the sun by a Prime Shield-esque tag team of Superboy Prime, Alexander Luthor Jr., and Superman of Earth 2, who then pieced out for a Paradise dimension. After 50 years of complex, sometimes contradictory lore, DC hit the reset button, leaving one unified continuity behind. I guess that's one way to solve a cluttered office space. The Cancerverse. If you thought death was bad, this event will show you that life can be even worse, especially if it's an undying tumorous infection. The Thanos Imperative comics served as a direct, terrifying sequel to the cosmic events Annihilation and Realm of Kings. The trouble started when a massive tear in space-time called the Fault opened, leading to a parallel reality called the Cancerverse, a universe where life had won completely and permanently, which sounds good on paper, but I promise you it's not. The consequence of this victory was that death itself had been killed, creating a universe filled with undying monstrous biological horrors ruled by the many-angled ones, which are just terrifying, Lovecraftian elder gods. In the opening, the Cancerverse focuses, including their evil version of the Avengers led by a twisted version of Captain Marvel, Lord Mar-Vell invaded the main Marvel universe with the goal of performing a ritual to kill death there as well. The only way to fight this avatar of life was with an avatar of death, so the Guardians of the Galaxy had the truly terrible idea of recruiting a recently resurrected Thanos to their cause. While the fleets of the Marvel Universe held the line against the undying biological ships, Star-Lord and his team snuck into the Cancerverse itself. The reality was sickening, fleshly nightmare where nothing could ever die, which meant suffering was eternal. And that's just gross, isn't it? In the climax, Thanos was brought to the necropsy site where Lord Mar-Vell prepared the final sacrifice. Thanos feigned surrender, allowing Mar-Vell to stab him. However, because Thanos is the physical avatar of death, his death was essentially a universal invasion to Mistress Death herself. Since Death did not exist in the Cancerverse, her immediate arrival instantly killed the entire universe, cauterizing the wound in reality itself. In a final heroic act, Star-Lord and Nova sacrificed themselves to stay behind and hold the door shut, trapping themselves with Thanos in a collapsing universe to make sure the infection was purged forever. And that's how Star-Lord and Nova learned that sometimes the only thing worse than dying is being forced to spend eternity babysitting the grumpy nihilistic titan who got the entire universe canceled. 0 Hour Crisis in Time. Ever wonder what happens when a superhero goes bad and decides to fix all of history? 0 Hour Crisis in Time provided the answer with the terrifying twist that the main villain was none other than the DC's greatest heroes, Hal Jordan, driven completely insane after the destruction of his hometown, Coast City. Jordan adopted the name Parallax and set out to create a perfect timeline where tragic events never happened, which I think is honestly the most dangerous goal a superhero can have. The series ran backwards, counting down from number 4, as the very fabric of time began to unravel. The past and future began bleeding into the present, which confused characters from every era of DC history popping up, while a white weave of entropy began actively erasing the timeline from both the beginning and the end. The villain Extant, formerly the hero Hawk, assisted Parallax by collapsing all the time streams and even aging the Justice Society of America to near death. What makes it even worse is that the heroes were forced to retreat to Vanishing Point, a place outside of time, as the entropy wave consumed the entire universe. By 0 hour number 1, the universe had essentially ceased to exist. Parallax revealed his plan. He would merge the timelines into a singular peaceful existence, thereby removing the chaos that had caused him so much personal suffering. The final confrontation happened in 0 hour number 0. The Spectre battled Parallax on a cosmic scale, while Green Arrow was forced to shoot his old friend, Hal Jordan, through the chest to stop the madness. A new Big Bang was triggered by the hero damage, and the entire timeline was restarted. The universe was rebuilt with subtle changes. Batman was considered a newer urban legend, the Legion of Superheroes got rebooted, and the old confusing multiverse elements were successfully smoothed over in a single cleaner timeline. It was a functional cleanup of DC's backstory, even if the visual of reality fading to white was absolutely chilling. Nothing fixes a problem like a universal do-over, I suppose. Annihilation. In a galaxy full of magical gods and abstract concepts, Annihilation stood out as a grounded, gritty military invasion that focused on raw, unrelenting galactic genocide. The crisis was introduced in the prologue, where Annihilus, the insectoid lord of the negative zone, opened a massive tear in space called the Crunch and unleashed billions of his insectoid warships. The dreaded Annihilation wave, which I personally find super disgusting because I hate bugs. The opening pages made it clear this wasn't a drill. The wave instantly destroyed the Klin, the notorious intergalactic prison, and completely wiped out the entire planet Xandar and the Nova Corps, which is a feat not many villains have. The sole survivor was Richard Ryder, aka Nova, who was forced to download the entire Nova Warmind database into his brain just to survive. Talk about a bad first day at the office. The war spanned the entire galaxy, consuming world after world. The powerful Kree Empire was overrun, the militaristic Skrull Empire was decimated. The surviving heroes, Nova, Star-Lord, Drax, and Gamora, were forced to form a desperate united front resistance, abandoning their usual heroic antics for a full-blown military action. What I think makes it a lot worse is that the stakes rose when Annihilus captured Galactus, the World Devourer, planning to use him as a literal bomb to destroy both the positive and negative matter universes so he could rule the void that remained. The turning point occurred when the Resistance managed to free the captive Galactus. Enraged by the indignity, Galactus unleashed an omnidirectional blast that instantly destroyed the majority of the Annihilation wave. In the finale, Nova confronted Annihilus one-on-one. In a brutal, visceral conclusion, Nova thrust his hand down Annihilus' throat and ripped out his internal organs, finally killing the tyrant. The universe was saved, but the political and military landscape of the Marvel cosmos was utterly shattered, hardening characters like Star-Lord into the soldiers who would eventually form the Guardians of the Galaxy. Just in case this happens again, maybe the Nova Corps could prepare by making a giant insect repellent. Blackest Night. What if death itself was trying to organize a coup? Building on years of Green Lantern mythology, Blackest Night suggested that the entire emotional spectrum, including will, fear, hope, etc., was an unnatural aberration, and the true state of the universe was absolute death, which sounds insane, but I think that could make sense. The crisis began with the villain Blackhand, digging up Batman's skull and unleashing millions of black power rings across the universe. These rings attached to the corpses of dead heroes and villains, reanimating them as relentless emotion-feeding zombies, the Black Lantern Corps. The ranks included icons like Aquaman, Firestorm, and Elongated Man, instantly putting every living hero on the defensive. The horror of this is in the psychological warfare. The zombies retained the memories of the dead and used them to mercilessly torture their living loved ones, essentially weaponizing grief. The infection spread, leading to a massive, gruesome battle in Coast City. The cosmic entity behind the whole scheme, Necron, finally manifested, and his goal was simple: to kill the entity, which is the white light embodiment of life that resides on Earth, which would instantly kill every living thing in the entire universe. What makes it even worse is that the heroes realized that the Black Lanterns were not truly alive and could not be destroyed by conventional force. The turning point happened when a coalition of all the Lantern Corps, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet, united their lights for one massive blast. In the final, Hal Jordan merged with the entity to create the White Lantern Corps. He used the power to resurrect the few heroes who had been fully converted into Black Lanterns, severing Necron's connection to the mortal plane and sending the darkness scurrying back into the void. Well, I guess when the universe is ending, the only thing better than a rainbow is a rainbow that can punch the ultimate personification of non-existence right in the face. The Infinity Gauntlet. If you're looking for the definitive cosmic event in Marvel history, this one sets the standards for simple, universal devastation. The premise is elegant. Thanos, the Mad Titan, finally collects all 6 Infinity Gems, fusing them into the legendary gauntlet. His goal? To impress his crush, Mistress Death. A bit lame, I know, but honestly, once I knew Death looks like this, I would do anything she says. In the Infinity Gauntlet number 1, after Death informs him that his previous kill count wasn't quite good enough, Thanos simply snaps his fingers. The result is instant, horrifying, and silent. 50% of all living beings in the universe instantly disappear. Heroes like Black Panther, the Fantastic Four, and Daredevil simply vanish into dust, leaving the survivors in utter shock and chaos. It was a truly statement piece. The remaining heroes, a desperate coalition led by Adam Warlock and Silver Surfer, launched an immediate suicidal offense. What makes it even worse is that Thanos, now omnipotent, treated the whole affair like a Sunday afternoon chess game. It was a complete slaughter. He effortlessly turned Thor into glass, suffocated Cyclops, and even had his henchwoman, Terexia, decapitate Iron Man. Even the cosmic big leagues like Galactus, the Stranger, Eon, and the Celestials attacked him in a final combined effort. Thanos was barely inconvenienced, instantly imprisoning them all in a stasis field and effectively defeating the combined might of all the physical and abstract powers in the universe. In the most colossal aura-farming moment ever, Thanos then transcended his physical body to become the living embodiment of the universe, also known as Eternity. However, in his arrogance, he momentarily left the gauntlet on his discarded physical body. His sneaky granddaughter Nebula seized the opportunity, claiming the gauntlet and undoing the carnage, though she briefly became a chaotic multiversal threat herself. Thanos was forced to ally with the remaining heroes to stop her, which I guess even cosmic gods need to work with their enemies sometimes. Eventually, Adam Warlock claimed the gauntlet and dispersed the gems into the Infinity Watch, and Thanos faked his death, returning to a farm to quietly ponder his role in the cosmos, which makes it certain that nothing screams defeated like a post-galactic genocide career change. Final Crisis. What happens when evil isn't just a physical threat, but a virus on the human mind? That is the unsettling metaphysical core of DC's Final Crisis. A dense and terrifying story where evil essentially won. The event kicked off with the murder of Orion and the shocking revelation that the new gods of Apocalypse were actually hiding on Earth in human bodies. The biggest threat wasn't a bomb or an army, but an idea. Darkseid released the anti-life equation through the internet and various media networks. This wasn't a metaphor. It was a mathematical proof that freedom is meaningless, instantly overriding the minds of anyone who saw or heard it. By then, half of humanity was enslaved, their minds chanting Darkseid is and die for Darkseid, proving that the greatest threat is sometimes just really good marketing. What makes it even worse is that as the story progressed, time and space began to completely break down because Darkseid was literally falling through the dimensions, dragging the entire multiverse into a singularity black hole with Earth at its epicenter. Again, very convenient. The Green Lantern Corps attempted to stop the cosmic slide and failed miserably. Superman had to travel to the future to retrieve the Miracle Machine, while Batman confronted Darkseid directly, breaking his one rule and used a specialized bullet made of god poison to shoot the villain. Just as Darkseid hit Batman with the Omega Sanction, sending the Caped Crusader back in time. With Darkseid physically dying but his spirit possessing Dan Turpin, reality began to flicker in and out of existence. In the grand finale, Superman returned to a world where essentially everyone was Darkseid. He used his heat vision to vibrate the planet at a frequency to counter Darkseid's vibration, essentially singing the multiverse back into harmony. He then used the Miracle Machine to reset the timeline, wishing for a happy ending for all of existence. The whole event treated stories as living things that Darkseid tried to suffocate, and Superman essentially saved the concept of narrative itself. Turns out, what the DC Universe really needed wasn't a hero, but a decent choir director and a slightly less depressing algorithm. 2015 Secret Wars. Forget what you know about superhero team-ups, because in this Marvel event, the heroes didn't win, they just survived long enough to find an even weirder problem. The prelude to Secret Wars saw the entire Marvel multiverse being slowly detonated by cosmic puppet masters called the Beyonders, through a series of incursions where two Earths would inevitably collide. The opening pages of Secret Wars #1 deliver the ultimate gut punch, the final definitive collision between the main Marvel universe, Earth 616, and the Ultimate Universe, Earth 1610. Despite the Illuminati's best efforts to construct life rafts, both Earths are instantly destroyed. The screen fades to white. And that's it. The multiverse is dead, leaving behind a silence that is perhaps the loudest ending in comic book history. From the ashes, a Frankenstein's monster of a planet called Battleworld arose, introduced in Secret Wars #2. This patchwork reality, composed of salvaged fragments from destroyed universes, was ruled with an iron fist by God Emperor Doom. Doom, having stolen the Beyonders' power with the help of Doctor Strange and Molecule Man, had essentially become the savior of humanity, forcing the surviving heroes to wake up to a twisted reality where their arch-enemy was now a beloved deity. Here's where I think it gets interesting. The conflict turns into a fascinating philosophical debate. Is the greatest threat the chaotic destruction or the totalitarian status quo that saved them from it? The survivors from the Life Raft, including Reed Richards and Black Panther, had to incite a full-scale rebellion against the very structure holding reality together. The climax featured Ben Grimm as a giant sentient structure, while Thanos tried to challenge Doom and was instantly reduced to a pile of bones, which shows Doom's new power is not to be messed with. In the end, Reed Richards confronts Doom, and after a verbal concession from the God Emperor, the power is transferred. Reed then uses the omnipotent power not for conquest, but to painstakingly rebuild the multiverse, one reality at a time. I guess this might be one of the best comic stories where the resolution was not through super punches, but talk no jutsu. Well, that's it for this one. If you liked the video, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and ring the bell so you never miss a drop. Craving more stories from comics, movies, and beyond? Check out this video right here. Cheers, and see you in the next one.